my name is Grace, and this is the Grace and Pearls Knitting Podcast. So today I am wearing a finished object. This is the Mayflower sweater by Saski&Co, also known as the Petite Knitter. It is knit up using Sundries' Sunday Morning DK Ecru. These are the colorways Whale Watching, and then I think it's First Light for the pink. Let me double check my notes. I should have checked that beforehand. Whale Watching and First Light. Look at me go. I ended up using a US 7 for the body and US 8 for the color work, which I think worked out beautifully. I did go down to like a US 2.5, I think, for the cuff ribbing. I just found that my ribbing, I think it was US 5 here. I did do a double folded collar. And then for my hem, which I'll stand up and show you, I used a US 4, and I found it still a little bit too messy for my liking. But then I went down to US 2.5 for the cuff ribbing, and I thought that looks great. I do find this gauge a little bit loose, but I was kind of going off of another sweater I made, my Oslo sweater, where I used a different colorway of this. And so I knew my gauge, and I didn't feel like doing gauge math, so I just went off of that. The sweater ended up blocking out beautifully. I think there's probably 5 or 6 inches of positive ease on this sweater. I'll leave my Ravelry project notes down below so you can look and see my body measurements versus my sweater's measurements and what those look like on me. Otherwise, I really like this sweater. The cuffs could be a little bit longer. I don't know what happened. I thought I did my math right, but that they would lengthen a little bit more during blocking, but they did not. But that's okay. I do not mind a bracelet length sleeve. I do a lot of work with my hands, and I don't want to keep pulling up my sleeves, so it's really helpful in those certain situations. But sometimes you just want a long, cozy sleeve. Otherwise, like I said, great pattern. Would knit it again, except I never find myself reknitting patterns because there are so many other patterns I want to knit. But lovely yarn as always, and I'm happy to be using this. Is some older stash I've had for over a year at this point, and I knew this plan and I wanted to get it off my needles, and I'm so glad I did. Next, I have the Blåvinda sweater for my nephew. So last week, I think I showed you this. This is a blocked through the washer and dryer version of it. My nephew is turning 2, and I wanted to make him a little birthday sweater. I made this and then realized that this was going to be way too small for a 2-year-old, and I kind of knew that going in. But I put it on some try-on tubing, and then I went over to my mother's house, who has some of his clothes, and measured a t-shirt that he wears that fits him pretty well, like kind of on the bigger side. And then we went up from there. My mom was like, just add an inch of positive ease and then it'll fit him for a long time. So here's my second iteration. I realized I liked the fingering weight of this, but didn't know if I wanted to basically double the stitches. So instead I held it double for a DK weight. And here is the sweater. So this is the back, this is the front. I did just pick up for the collar. I'm very happy with myself. So this is knit bottom up. Let me move my yarn out of the way here. And you start with it ribbing. I ended up, this is puckering here at the bottom because I decided to do a better job of catching my float, so it looked a little bit more even with the tension. And then I split front and back. Then I was doing color work in flat, so I was purling the color work, which is fine. I've done it in the past. It's not my favorite technique. I'm not very good at purling. Usually I'm a continental knitter, but I purl English style, like flicking, when I am doing color work flat, and that just takes some getting used to, and different ways of like wrapping my yarn around my needles. It's just much slower than knitting in the round. I thought about steeking this sweater, but 1, it's for a child and I didn't want those steeks to unravel, and 2, this is superwash yarn and I would have to do a lot of sewing down and reinforcing, and turns out that his birthday party is getting moved up 2 weeks, so I need to get going on this. It's actually pretty quick for a children's knit compared to an adult size sweater. I did the whole, this like front and back yoke section yesterday and this morning. I did end up doing a Kitchener stitch bind off here for the shoulder and then just picked up for the collar. So now I have the collar and the sleeves, and I'm hoping that it's better be done by the end of the week because that's when it's due for his birthday, but I have a feeling this is gonna start flying off the needles now. I am using all the blues that the, here's Ralph. Might be joining us here for a little bit, that the Woolen Company had on their website. So it's like a deep navy blue and then 2 baby blues and then this like aquamarine type blue. I always think aquamarine is like a mid-tone blue, but I think it's more of like a seafoam green situation. But anyways, this is coming along nicely. I don't know what I'm gonna end up doing with this. I've thought about making like a baby version, except I thought about it for a while because the original pattern is knitted, it's Swedish. Let's back up, it's in Swedish. I did use ChatGPT to translate the instructions, and then I was kind of going off of the flax worsted sweater, and then I just kind of went back to the original Blåvinda sweater. I put it into ChatGPT to translate it into English. It did a little bit of a better job than Google did, but I know it always can't be perfect, so just double check with Google whenever you translate. And what was I going with this? The original sweater is knitted in pieces, and you are not catching me doing color work stranded, pieced, like flat back and forth. Not doing that, not doing that. Nope, I will be knitting my color work in the round. So I have this, and I don't necessarily want to do the same, like this is more of a drop shoulder situation. I thought about doing a raglan, but then you have to knit the sleeves and then attach them and go up from there, and that seemed like a lot of math I didn't want to do. So anyways, now I'm thinking, what if I make this into like a neck warmer situation? Let me know your thoughts. I could also, I was thinking about just adding ribbing here, casting it off. Could be a neck warmer. I could also like sew it into a bag. Might be a good idea too. So let me know what I should do with this. It's too pretty to keep it like this, to like unravel all this or throw it away. It also could, eventually be like a doll blanket or something like that too. So there's that. And moving on, Ralph is just gonna be with us. So moving on, this is my Cardi Jumper by Vert Knit. I've come along quite a bit on this. So here is the back, and here's the left front and the right front. I did finally attach it all in the round here, so now I'm just knitting stockinette back and forth for the foreseeable future. So it's a perfect go project where it just gets thrown in my bag and I knit on it as I go. The only issue is like the mohair sometimes is annoying knitting on the go with it because it's a little bit, it's not necessarily fragile, but I always am conscious of people around me when I knit, and mohair likes to leave floof places. Although I have to say this knitting for Olive soft silk mohair is pretty good in that regard. It doesn't like leave floof all over the place. This is knitted up in the Knitting for Olive. They're like fingering weight merino. I think it's just their merino and soft silk mohair, and the color bottleneck green. Bottleneck green might just be bottle green. And it's coming along very nicely. I'm thinking now I want this for Christmas. It's a beautiful Christmas tree green color. So yes, that's my goal for this one, and I'm happy it's finally coming along. I was a little bit nervous there, like I wasn't making much progress on it. But now that I'm slit for sleeves, I'm just like, okay, you know what? We can crank on this. Next, I have a new work in progress, which is very exciting. And I did not have this yarn the last time we talked. So last time we talked was going into, I live in Ohio, and there is a wool gathering, as it's called, at Young's Dairy Farm in Yellow Springs, Ohio, which is not too terribly far from where I live. And I had never been. It's usually on my birthday weekend, so sometimes I'm up doing other things. But this weekend I decided to bring the whole family along. It's great because my nephew's turning 2. He loves barn animals, so we got to see the goats, the alpaca, the rabbits, the cows, pigs. He was having a great time. We rode the carousel together, but then there was lots and lots of yarn. Like I said, I had never been, and I found the wool gathering to have quite a bit of a indie dyed yarn, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I thought there was going to be more barn yarns and more like knitting adjacent shops like stitch markers and buttons. I was really looking for some buttons, and like no one had buttons. There were some like wovens there, but less so, you know, more rustic-y barn yarns. Like I thought like it was going to be people coming in with their sheep shears, and there were a few booths that had sheep's, I don't know what they're called for spinners, I'm not there yet, like fleeces, just sheep fleeces in trash bags that people could look at, and they're beautiful. And maybe in the future I'd get one of those, but I thought there'd be more of that, you know, like farm to barn to festival type yarns there, but that's okay. There was pretty much 3 stores right in a row that I knew I wanted yarn from. Took pictures of them, walked around the whole section, and then tents. Then we got lunch and then went back and I purchased the yarn that I couldn't stop thinking about. So one was this lovely kettle dyed yarn and this studio based in Galloway, Ohio, which is just outside Greater Columbus. And this is, the shop was going out of business, and I did email the owner later, but they don't have an online presence. And so this beautiful kettle dyed purpley yarn is now my next project. I forget the name of the shop, and I could probably figure out, I'll link it down below. But this is, I know, like their Fables and Fairies sport weight. And I think the colorway is Vader, if I recall correctly. I'll have it down below and linked in my Ravelry projects. And so this was gifted to me by my sister, who let me buy some yarn for my birthday. And so then I decided to cast on my birthday sweater. I was waiting for a little bit because I was trying to get a test knit with this yarn, and I ended up not getting the test knit, which is totally fine. So then just the past few days I cast it on for the Lucy Tea by Sari Nordlund, except I'm gonna make it into a sweater. Because this is lovely, like rich tonal, I wanted to use some texture to help make the tonal pop. And I just barely started. I cast it on for the back, and then I did one of the shoulders, and now I gotta pick up for the other shoulder. I didn't have enough try-on tubing. I like to have like long pieces like this for my body, and then teeny tiny short pieces, which I do have one now like this. I usually leave my knots on the end and then leave one end hanging for like shoulders, and I didn't have this at the time, so I just shoved it all on a longer piece that I had here. So it's not the best to look at. And I, just before sitting down, realized I may have used a US 6 for the back and then a US 4 for the shoulder. So I'm going to have to do, probably I'll end up blocking this and see how it looks. I did block this back to take a look at it. I may have to redo the shoulder, we're gonna find out, or like redo the back, I don't know. The back is the gauge I want it to be, but I just need to figure out my needle size. So that'll be a fun project for later. I did end up, like I have 200 gram skeins of this that looked like they're from the same batch, and I will probably work on knitting them, you know, every other round to evenly disperse the coloring, because it's not always going to be perfect with hand dyed yarn. But I did do it for this back piece, and then I did not do it for the shoulder, and you cannot tell at all. So I might just hold it single and cross my fingers and hope it works out. But it's coming along very nicely. The Lucy Tea is just like straight stockinette with a little garter ridge and then some ribbing, basically. And you just repeat that over and over again. So it's very mindless to do. Once I get it going, like I still have to look right now at the pattern, but I'm hoping once I get going in the round, I'll have it easily memorized. It's just right now with the shaping and everything, I like to be able to look at the pattern. So I'm very excited for this cast on. Next, oh, no more whips. Those are all my whips. Next I have some more yarn acquisition. So while I was at the wool gathering, I ended up getting some more yarn. First is this Solstice Fiber Studio. This is their DK weight. I think it's just, yeah, superwash merino in the colorway Cucumber Melon. They do have an online presence. I did end up talking to them and I ordered they have a silk base that they don't have in the store, but they had it on at the wool gathering. They didn't have it online. But I asked them and they're gonna go ahead and dye up some more of their silk base for me because they had this lovely crochet t-shirt there knitted up or crocheted up in this, and it was beautiful. And I will probably not crochet the t-shirt, but I will probably knit a t-shirt or two. I ended up getting 4 skeins of the silk, and I will, I'm planning on making something for my sister and something for myself. But I also have 2 skeins of this now, so this probably will also become a t-shirt or tank top. But this is more of a spring summer plan. Next, I have this Plymouth yarn company, Sonnet, which I think is like a DK weight. Looks like a DK. It doesn't say. 100 grams, 382 yards, and this is DK. This is 100 grams, 246 yards, so maybe more like a sport weight. Or heavy fingering. It looks a little bit too heavy though for fingering. This is 60% merino wool, 20% mulberry silk, and 20% bamboo viscose. And this is definitely gonna become a t-shirt. I have another one of these too. This is so soft, so soft. And I saw this and, you know, I live in Ohio, so I immediately thought like scarlet and gray. But it's also like a lovely rosy red color here, which is pretty much scarlet, right? So I have 2 of these. It just looks like it's gonna be super drapey, and I'm very much looking forward to this in the springtime. Next, at the same booth that had this, there was also this yarn, Be Authentic hand dyed yarn, and I have it in the colorway Lavandaria, which I'm pretty sure this is a fingering weight superwash merino. It's superwash merino, but I'm unsure what the weight is. This, when I was doing some research, because I was like, I've never heard of this, turns out it's sold at Hobby Lobby, and I'm a little bit disappointed by that. I didn't realize I was buying Hobby Lobby yarn when I was at the wool gathering. It does say Hobby Lobby on the tag, so I should have known a little bit better if I really wanted to know, but I was like really surprised. But it's this lovely, beautiful lavender color, and I'll definitely use it, but I just thought it was funny. It's like I went all this way just to buy some Hobby Lobby yarn at the barn. So anywho, and then I was scrolling through Instagram and I literally told myself earlier this week, like, do not buy any yarn. Like, there's a lovely compass sweater that's coming out by Trin Annalie. I made her Irish pullover, and it's made in Holskarn, and they're currently not shipping to the United States, but I was like, you know what, if that comes available and they are shipping to the United States, you can go ahead and get that because it's beautiful, the old compass sweater, and I wanted it knitted up in the colorway that she had there. But unfortunately, they are not being shipped to the United States currently, which is totally fair. These tariffs, it's like every single week something could change. So I was disappointed in that, but then I stumbled upon this lovely colorwork striped sweater. I forget who it's by, but I'll have it all linked down below, like I keep saying. But there was a colorwork kit available, and it was right in the price range that I was thinking about. I do not like spending a lot of money on yarn. I try to keep sweaters around $100 if I can, and this kit was too good to pass up. So I ended up getting this yarn. I have worked with it. I feel like I have worked with the Fibre Co yarn in the past. I'm trying to think now, maybe it was Fiber Space and I just get the two confused. So this is the Fibre Co Cumbria fingering. This is Masham. I think it's like 90% Masham, 10% mohair. And this is in the colorway Catcalls. This is lovely, like burnt orange, rusty yellow situation, like a brassy goldeny color. Beautiful. And then this is their new transition yarn, which is 50% alpaca, 50% wool, Highland wool. This is sport weight. So I wonder if this is more like a heavy fingering, because this definitely looks more fingering than this does, but this says it's a sport weight. It probably blooms just beautifully. It's this lovely color changing yarn here. The oranges and the blues, and I'll have a picture of the jumper here. And so this was like my birthday present to me. I mean, these were also birthday presents to myself too, but I knew like going into the wool gathering that I was going to be buying some yarn and this Cumbria in transition. So I'm hoping that's enough yarn for a little bit here. I really want to cast a lot of these projects on. I know I just did my fall knitting plans, but those have kind of gone out the window because of the new birthday sweater that I definitely want this for Thanksgiving, my Christmas cardigan, which those were, the Christmas cardigan was in my fall knitting plans, but this new yarn that's now come into my life, now that I'm excited to see it, I want to cast. Everything has kind of moved down below, so probably this will be my next cast on. We will see, but I'm hoping the next time I see you, this will be done. And we'll get a little bit further on the Lucy top once I figure out what needle size I used. And so yeah, please tell me what you are working on. What is in your queue? What are you excited about this fall? I'm excited to actually like work with some fall yarns. I haven't done that in a while. Like usually my color work palette is pink, obviously. So it's nice to transition into like some blues and some rusty burnt orange colors. So that's all I have for you. Have a good week. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.